Find the limit. The limit as x goes to 0 of e to the x plus e to the negative x minus 2 divided by x times the sine of x. Here, if we try to evaluate the numerator and denominator by, and then in turn the whole limit with the quotient rule, we get e to the 0 minus e to the 0, e to the negative 0, pardon me, minus 2 divided by 0 times the sine of 0. Oh, sorry, this is e to the 0 plus e to the negative 0. E to the 0 is 1. The sine of 0 is 0, and 0 times 0 is 0. So in fact, we end up with 0 over 0, which is the indeterminate form. So we know that we may apply L'Hopital's rule. So by L'Hopital's rule, now technically for L'Hopital's rule we have to make sure that the numerator and denominator are both differentiable, but that should show itself in our working it out if that's not the case. So the limit as x goes to 0. The derivative of e to the x is e to the x plus the derivative of e to the negative x. That's e to the negative x times the derivative of negative x. That's the chain rule, which is negative 1. The derivative of negative 2 is 0, so it goes away. The derivative of the denominator, x times the sine of x, that's going to be a product rule. Two factors. So the derivative of the first factor is 1 times a copy of the second plus a copy of the first, which is x, times the derivative of the second, cosine of x. Now we try to evaluate this again, the numerator and denominator separately. So e to the 0 minus e to the 0 over sine of 0 plus 0 times the cosine of 0. E to the 0 is 1. Sine of 0 is 0. Cosine of 0 is 1. However, we're multiplying by 0 here, so we get, again, 0 over 0. Well, let's try this one more time and hope that we get somewhere. So by L'Hopital's rule, we have the limit as x goes to 0 of the derivative of the numerator. So e to the x. This time, this e to the negative x is going to produce another factor of negative 1, so we get plus e to the negative x divided by the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x plus the product rule for this second term. So the derivative of the first factor is 1 times a copy of the second plus a copy of the first times the derivative of the second. Derivative of cosine of x is negative sine of x. And once again, we evaluate the numerator and denominator at 0. So e to the 0 plus e to the 0 over the cosine of 0 plus the cosine of 0 minus 0 times the sine of 0. E to the 0 is 1. So the numerator is going to end up being 2. Aha, we no longer have an indeterminate form. Cosine of 0 is 1. Cosine of 0 is 1. Sine of 0 is 0. And then when you multiply by that by 0, you really get 0. So you get 2 in the denominator. So the whole limit ends up being 2 divided by 2, which is 1. So applying L'Hopital's rule a couple of times eventually got us to the value that the limit is equal to 1.